Money doesn't change people, it reveals them. And when you give someone more money than they could ever spend, you start to see the raw, unfiltered truth. For some, that truth is generosity and vision. For others, it's paranoia, obsession, or sheer, delightful madness. In today's video, we're diving into the strange and often unbelievable world of eccentric millionaires. These aren't just rich people. They're the ones who rewrote the rule book on how to live, hoard, and sometimes even give away their fortunes. We're talking about the woman who hid her fortune in garbage bags, the man who tried to clone himself, the tycoon who left her money to a dog, and a janitor who quietly amassed millions without anyone noticing. So buckle up, because the world of the ultra-wealthy is a lot weirder than you think. Let's start with one of the most bizarre and frugal millionaires of all time, Hetty Green. Born in 1834, Hetty Green earned the nickname the Witch of Wall Street, not just because of her ruthless investing strategies, but because of her peculiar habits. By the time of her death, she was worth over $100 million, the equivalent of more than $2 billion today. But you'd never guess it by looking at her. She wore the same old black dress every day. She didn't heat her house. She rarely did laundry, claiming soap cost too much. She ate cold oatmeal because it was cheaper than heating it. But that wasn't the strangest part. She didn't trust banks. Instead, she stashed her cash in trunks, suitcases, and yes, garbage bags. Rumors circulated that she once spent an entire night searching for a lost stamp worth 2 cents. Her stinginess had real consequences. When her son Ned injured his leg, Hetty refused to pay for proper medical treatment. She took him to a free clinic instead. The result? His leg had to be amputated. Despite all of this, Hetty was no fool. She was a master investor who made her fortune in bonds, real estate, and railroads. She loaned money to the city of New York during a financial panic, with interest, of course. But behind her brilliance was a deep fear of losing it all. Some say she suffered from undiagnosed mental illness. Others believe she was just incredibly strategic. Either way, Hetty Green proved that having money doesn't mean you'll spend it. In her case, it meant hoarding it, hiding it, and fearing it would vanish at any moment. Leona Helmsley wasn't just rich, she was feared. Known as the Queen of Mean, she made her fortune as a New York real estate tycoon. Her empire included the Empire State Building, the Helmsley Hotels, and countless other properties. But her legacy took a bizarre turn after she died in 2007. In her will, Leona left $12 million, not to family, not to friends, but to her dog, a tiny white Maltese named Trouble. That's right, the dog inherited more money than most of us will ever see in our lifetimes. She even had a full-time bodyguard because of threats to kidnap her. She stayed in luxury hotels, ate gourmet meals, slept on custom beds. Meanwhile, some of Leona's grandchildren were either excluded from the will entirely or given comparatively small bequests. One condition? They had to visit their father's grave annually to collect. A judge later reduced Trouble's inheritance to $2 million, citing it as more than enough for even the most pampered pooch. Still, that left Trouble as one of the wealthiest pets in the world. But Leona's eccentricity didn't stop there. She also declared in her will that the rest of her vast fortune should be used to care for dogs. Her charitable trust has since donated millions to animal welfare causes. Why the obsession with canines? Some say it was guilt. Others say dogs were the only ones who never turned on her. Leona Helmsley's story is a strange mix of wealth, vengeance, and pet devotion taken to the extreme. And it leaves us asking, when you have everything, what really matters? Next up is a man who believed in second chances, even if it meant cloning himself to get there. John Sperling was a self-made millionaire and the founder of the University of Phoenix. He revolutionized for-profit education and made a fortune doing it. But his true obsession was human improvement. Sperling didn't just dabble in science. He poured millions into genetic research, life extension, and cloning. In the late 1990s, he spent $3.7 million trying to clone his beloved dog, Missy. The experiment was called the Missy-plicity Project, and while Missy herself was actually never cloned The research paved the way for today's pet cloning industry. But that wasn't all. Sperling wanted to clone humans too. He believed in transhumanism, the idea that technology could improve, enhance, and eventually surpass the limits of the human body. In other words, he didn't just want to live longer. He wanted to live smarter, better, and maybe forever. To many, he sounded like a mad scientist with a billion-dollar lab. But to Sperling, this was the future, and he wanted to be first in line. His investments also supported life extension drugs, cryonics, and controversial gene editing projects. He didn't see science fiction. He saw inevitability. When he died in 2014, he left behind a complicated legacy. On one hand, he opened the door for millions of non-traditional students to earn degrees. On the other, he funneled his fortune into scientific projects that were decades ahead of their time, and possibly still too strange for the mainstream. Love him or question him, John Sperling showed us what happens when a millionaire decides to play God. Not all millionaires are flashy. Some of them are so quiet about their wealth that no one finds out until they're gone. That's exactly what happened with Ronald Read. Ronald was a janitor and gas station attendant from Vermont. He drove a second-hand car, wore flannel shirts, and used safety pins to hold his coat together. People saw him as a kind, simple man who lived an ordinary life. What they didn't know was that Ronald Read was secretly worth almost $8 million. His secret? He invested quietly, consistently, for decades. He bought shares in blue-chip companies like Procter & Gamble, J.P. Morgan, and General Electric. He reinvested his dividend. He read the Wall Street Journal at the library. He lived far below his means, and he never told a soul. When he died in 2014 at the age of 92, his fortune was revealed. Nearly all of it was left to a local hospital and library. People were stunned. How did a janitor become a millionaire? It turns out he did it the old-fashioned way. No get-rich-quick schemes, no flashy startups, just patience, discipline, and a deep understanding of how compound interest works. Ronald Read's story is a wake-up call. You don't need to be rich to become wealthy. You just need to be smart, consistent, and a little bit invisible. Money is a great magnifier. It doesn't actually fix people, and it doesn't ruin them. It just turns up the volume on who they already are. Hetty Green hoarded it out of fear. Leona Helmsley weaponized it out of spite. John Sperling tried to transcend humanity with it. And Ronald Read? He built it in silence, then gave it all away. These aren't just stories of wealth. They're stories of what happens when people are given the keys to the kingdom and are left to do whatever they want. Some used their fortunes to indulge. Others tried to change the world. A few just wanted to be left alone. But no matter how strange, selfish, or saintly their choices seemed, each of these eccentric millionaires left behind more than money. They left behind questions about value, about legacy, about what we'd all do if the numbers in our bank accounts suddenly started climbing into the millions. So now, it's over to you. If you had millions, what would you do? Would you build a better world? Buy a spaceship? Clone your cat? Or would you, like Ronald Read, just sit quietly, let it grow, and one day leave the world a little better than you found it? Leave a comment below to let me know. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the edge of wealth, wisdom, and the wonderfully weird. See you in the next video.